What up with y'all, man? It's the Mental Ninja, bro. I'm out here in nature, man. Actually, I'm just at a park, really. But I'm outside and shit. Man, I'm just chilling and shit, man. Fucking watching all these people and shit, you know, doing this outdoor thing since they can't, like, go to work and shit or do they normal, you know, civilized society routine and shit. And let me get you a little view of where I'm at. This is a park over on the southwest side of fucking Vegas. You know, we got this mountain thing. I don't know if you can see it right there, but you can go to the top of that and you can see like the whole city, man. There's a big ass like circular observing deck, you know, that has like the north, south, east, west marked out. There's a hummingbird right there and shit doing this, looking crazy as fuck. That nigga looking crazy as fuck, just flying around looking silly. But he's doing his thing though. I can't be mad at him, man. You know, I wouldn't even know what to do if I was a hummingbird, man. Yeah, but like on top of the mountain back behind me and shit, that little plateau thing, it's pretty dope. I go up there and shit, and I like to do like my little rituals and shit, like in the dead of night when nobody's up there and shit, you know, and it's pretty cool. But I want to talk about that, like the COVID-19 thing, right? And like, I'm gonna say stuff. Hopefully, my video don't get like flagged and shit. So I'm gonna do my best not to speak in like any kind of absolutes or like, you know, kind of go against like the narrative and shit. But like, more like just ask questions and shit, or bring things in the questioning form and shit, and let you come to your own decisions or your own understanding. You know, and for me, you know, like, I kind of feel like the whole COVID-19 is more of not like a fucking depopulating thing or a global control thing, really. I mean, I can go that way in some thoughts, but the truth is, man, I just see this as like a big ass ritual, just to be honest with you, man, like a big sun ritual, being that in America, since we're like the #1 country in the world and people kind of follow our lead, I kind of feel like we kicked this shit off around like in March and shit, right? Around the end of March, around the equinox, you know, and Corona being like the sun, or being the crown, you know, or coronation and stuff, crowning the sun, crowning the king, crowning the child, you know, and 19 being the Atu card in the Thoth deck of Toro, you know, tarot, you know what I'm saying? That's another correlation between the sun, you know. And I was telling my coworkers before we got shut down, I was like, look, don't be surprised if this shit, I think this shit's gonna be over around June 20th. Like, everything will be said and done, the actual ritual observance will be done, you know, because that's when the solstice is, you know, and this is like in the beginning of, you know, basically beginning of summer and shit. So that's just like my view on like the idea of the coronavirus and stuff. Do I think it's a real virus? I kind of do think it is a real virus. Do I think it's as big as they say it is? I actually really don't. You know, I'm in Vegas, right? And my first thought was like, if any city, if amongst the cities that should be at the hardest, it should have been Vegas, because we have travel from all over the world. Every fucking country comes here and stuff, and you're gonna get people that usually aren't gonna go to like New York and shit. That's when they come to Vegas. It's just a fucking vacation, walk in one area and leave. You know what I'm saying? So like with that said, you know, I know New York is a bigger city and LA is a bigger city and shit, but like when we got a whole bunch of Asians coming out here and they gonna walk on the strip, and the Asians do the same fucking thing, bro. The Asians really ain't doing something different than other people. Like, you can see kind of like, you know, in the Asians, they're gonna go to Chinatown, they're gonna go to like, you know, they're walk the strip and shit, they're gonna see the sights, they're gonna see the shows, they're gonna see Jabberwockies, they're gonna see Ka, they're gonna see you know, they're gonna gamble and drink and shit. You know, you expect like, you know, a virus of this magnitude to be spread that much quicker between people walking in a single spot, like in a linear fashion, like on the strip. I work on the strip. I'll be on that bitch every fucking day. Every day, you know what I'm saying? I might take one day off, I might take 2 days off, but I only work 5 hours a day, and I work from like 9 to 3. And me and all my peoples, we be, you know, on the rest of my coworkers, we be right in front of Planet Hollywood. I mean, if you watch this video and you've been to Vegas in the past like 3 years and you've walked past Planet Hollywood, you probably would have walked right past me. I probably would have said something to you and shit, you know, so I do the timeshare thing, especially if you was with your spouse or whatever. and you're of a certain age, you know, look like you might have been married or a certain age and stuff, you know. So like I'm up there, like really, I'm observing. That's what my job is, to observe. You know what I'm saying? To target the and we call it target marketing. You know what I'm saying? We're looking for the couples that are got rings on, that look like they're at least 28 years old, that look like they're American or Canadian at least. You know, because my company, we don't book foreigners. Anybody that's not from America or Canada, we don't book them, or one of our territories and shit, you know. So I'm up there looking out. I'm pretty much seeing every fucking couple, every person that walks through and shit, you know, especially the couples and shit. You know, it's like, yeah, the whole fucking coronavirus thing being like as big as they say it is. I swear to God, it should have been harder. Vegas should have been fucking destroyed by this shit, man. We should have niggas, we should have bodies in the street and shit, you know. And there's like a thing, like, you know, one thing about the coronavirus, I think logistically of how people be dying and shit from sicknesses and shit. Hold on. When I think about how people be dying from like overdoses and shit, you know what I'm saying? How people be dying from, you know, sleep apnea, from like fucking heart attacks and shit. You know, a lot of the people having heart attacks and dying from overdoses, they don't be making it to the hospital. They ain't dying in no hospital. They die in their homes. You know what I'm saying? Be found in their car, you know what I'm saying, on the side of the street in the alley and shit. And like, I haven't seen one case yet. I mean, I'm not watching the news like I was in the beginning. You know, because probably gonna be spending most of my time fucking with Rose Sanchez and his channel and shit, you know what I'm saying? Them niggas, that nigga be having to me at it. Like, I be on Rose Sanchez channel more than I be at work, nigga. You know, that's love, bro. That's love, showing like what the nigga doing and what he presenting and shit, and how he get people to interact, man. I mean, I don't see anybody getting me to be like, you know, doing a platform where I'm gonna be on their fucking shit for like 5 to 7 hours, 4 hours straight, you know what I'm saying, on a call. You know what I'm saying? I think I've logged some of my most longest telephone conversations in my life on Bro Sanchez channel and shit. You know, I said the second one. The longest one, I took my sponsee through his fifth step. I heard his fifth step or his fourth step about a month ago, man. That shit was like almost 8 hour conversation. You know, but it wasn't about me though. It was about me, you know, helping another guy out, you know what I'm saying? So in his efforts to stay sober, you know, in the brother Sanchez side, it's not about me. It's about other people sharing their information with me so I can learn something new. You know, I just like a secret side. I don't got all the answers and shit, but I really am willing to learn, man. I get fucking hard on for learning, nigga. You know what I'm saying? I'm willing to ride to learn and shit. You know what I'm saying? I got a gangbanging mentality, prison mentality on learning and shit, nigga. I love that shit. You know, I ride or die for that shit. But going back to the COVID thing, is like, I haven't heard about people being found dead, like lots of people. You'd expect more people to be found dead in their homes from COVID-19, but the shit that we're being shown is like hospitals. You know what I'm saying? And I kind of understand that because it's a hospital, and that kind of reaffirms the position of it's a sickness, it's a disease. You know, because you're showing the medical community at fucking, you know, on the front line, as they say. You know, fighting the invisible enemy, and you know, even that term, the invisible enemy, is like, I get it. You know, it's like the devil. It's like the devil's killing niggas and he's leaving his fingerprints and evidence called COVID-19, or Jesus is taking niggas' souls and shit and it's called COVID-19 and shit. But really it's invisible. And so are them niggas, you know? But like one of the big things about it is that, like, going back to the way the deaths are happening, you know what I'm saying? We're being shown all these body bags and shit, you know what I'm saying? I'm not seeing on Facebook, being that I've been banned from Facebook for 30 days for a fucking argument. I was talking fun shit. But the nigga was like, I was fucking talking shit to some nigga and he fucking reported me after, you know what I'm saying? I was like, the fuck, faggot ass nigga, you know, anyway. You know, and, but like the COVID-19 thing is like, it just doesn't seem to be adding up the way it should be adding up. The way that I'm expecting it, or maybe the population expecting it to happen in their heads. And I think that's mostly where the disease lies, is in our minds, in our fucking fears and shit, our thoughts and shit. And I think that by shutting down the government, you know, it was kind of forced on us. You know, I really sat from the perspective of like, well, everybody else is scared, so, you know, that's why they're doing it. And it could be, and I have to consider the thought that maybe everybody's thinking that same shit. Well, everybody else is scared, so they have to do it and shit, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, man, the shit gets shut down. So for me, that's where I seen, the truth is in the results. Like, what would be beneficial of having this virus and amplifying it on the media the way it's been done is we get to shut the whole world down and shit. And it's funny because, like, I know this stage, right? So Donald Trump had this TV show called The Apprentice. It was like one of the #1 TV shows. I never watched that shit. All the nigga did was fire motherfuckers. They just watched see who get fired and shit. You know what I'm saying? And then then this nigga runs for president, and he's running against some dude named D's Nuts. And I'm like, this shit can't be real. Somebody named D's Nuts, they saying this nigga name on the news, and it's like real shit. This is real fucking party member and shit. An independent named D's Nuts with 14% vote in like 7 different states. Like, who the fuck going out there and voting for this nigga? And I'm like, it must be some kids, like, but still, why would they put that man's name on the ballot? And that's not a real name and shit, And that was the first thing to me. It's like, voting, this shit is a joke. Because that's a joke. Using the platform as a joke because the platform itself is a joke. You know what I'm saying? And then when Donald Trump gets elected, first thing he does, he fires everybody he fires everybody in the White House. Fires the FBI dude, fires this person, fire that person. He's just firing niggas left and right. People like, can he do that? And I'm like, well, he doing it. You know what I'm saying? And then the last part, this nigga fired the whole country. Laid the whole country up, got the whole country on unemployment, right? And they say it's like 30 million people, man. I think it's probably more than that. I think they keep the numbers down, you know what I'm saying? Because if they projected higher numbers, then I think that it will cause people to panic, you know what I'm saying? And probably cause people to ask questions and shit. But keeping the numbers down when, I'm driving down the street and majority of the businesses are closed. Majority. So they're saying that really out of 350 million people, that majority of the people are working. But in my city, majority of the businesses are closed. You know what I'm saying? From my perspective. No, I have not drove through every city and knocked on every business door. I'm talking about driving down the street, seeing lots and lots of fucking businesses that are just not open. And the ones that are open, like restaurants and fucking, yeah, basically restaurants and gas stations and shit is the majority one, and the funny thing is like, that would almost suggest that, unemployment and the whole strip is shut down. They got restaurants in it and it's shut down. So that would like almost suggest that, I guess majority of the workers in Las Vegas all work in restaurants or gas stations. When it's like, that's not true. Of course you got the labor forces, like, the construction guys and those guys doing their job, but there's only X amount of fucking construction being built, you know what I'm saying, around, and those businesses aren't opening either. You know what I'm saying? Even if they're finished, not opening and shit. So I do see that as kind of like a little strange and shit, where it doesn't really add up with the narrative and shit, and then like, so now they're talking about reopening businesses and shit, right? And I can see that happening. But first I want to go back to like, they shut the country down, right? They fire everybody gets laid off. And as soon as that shit happened, it was okay. People were like kind of worried and shit, And then as is in the past few weeks, in the past like 3 weeks and shit, I've seen more people wearing masks and shit. You know what I'm saying? I heard some states are mandatory. If you go out in public, you have to wear the mask and shit. And I feel like people are so desperate to go back to the way life used to be that they're willing to fucking do anything. They'll dress up. Them niggas told them wear a clown suit. Them niggas be wearing a clown suit because they're willing to participate so they can go back have life and go back to the way it was and shit. So this and that's how ritual is. Ritual is about participation. You know what I'm saying? Even the people that don't know what the ritual is about, if they're present, they are in participation by being present. And their energy is called the egregor, and you can look that definition up, egregor, egregore, egregore, you know what I'm saying, whatever. And you can look in that in the occult and the esoteric realms and stuff, and you can see that this is the mystic energy, the vibrational energy and harmonization that's pretty much drummed up in like Masonic rituals and shit like that, and like in ritual operations and stuff, and so and now here we go with like, they're talking about reopening. That's a weird ass looking chipmunk, nigga. Anyway, they talk about reopening the country and stuff, and I can see like one of the things about the coronavirus is like it preyed mostly on the elderly. So if the elderly are afraid, then naturally the younger people are going to be afraid, because the elderly are the young people's parents. They're you know what I'm saying? And by that, they're going to follow the parents in a sense, you know. Their fears as parents are going to like be overriding the younger person's fear, whether they're 50, 40, 30, or 20. The parent is going to be, well, I'm at risk, and this is going to be like, listen to mom and dad, we know what we're talking about, you know what I'm saying? And so the children are going to have to, doesn't matter how old they are, they're going to pretty much have to be forced to either fall in line or like, you know, not be able to see their families, their parents, based on the idea that their parents believe that they're at risk, you know. And it's kind of like, it's kind of crazy. It's dogmatic in a sense. It's superstitious in a sense. Like, oh my God, I don't want the devil to get me, so I'm not going to go outside. And if you want me to come outside, the devil may get me. And like, really, you know, me being outside is the proof that the devil ain't gonna get nobody. Cause I've been outside all motherfucking day. I'm outside right now. But if the other person believes that if they go outside, the devil's gonna get them and shit, they're not gonna go outside. And they're gonna look at me or the you know, the person's outside as a threat. And that reinforces like division and shit, you know. And like when Donald Trump was like talking about making America great again, my first fuck after that shit popped off, bro, and they stopped all the travel, they banned the travel ban. I promise you, man, look, this shit was funny as fuck because like everybody on the strip was American. I was like, this nigga did it. This nigga made America great again. He didn't even have to build no wall. We were talking about building walls and shit and keeping people out and shit. And we didn't even build the wall. We built the wall, but that shouldn't keep people out. What's kept people out? Coronavirus. Shut down the whole country. We have limited movement. You know what I'm saying? Like in a prison, in a maximum security yard, you got limited movement and shit. You can only go certain places at certain times. You're confined to your cell most of the time and shit. You know what I'm saying? If you come out of your cell, you can be sanctioned. And I see the same thing going on right now. Like this whole thing's turned to a giant prison, giant FEMA camp. You know? And and watching the news and hearing the news say this and then say that, and seeing Trump and his cabinet on the news, and they're not wearing no masks and shit. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. But then like all of a sudden, like people start talking about why aren't they in there wearing masks? All of a sudden they're wearing masks and shit. You know what I'm saying? And that's to reaffirm the narrative, really. But really, you can tell it and think, because Trump ain't never wore no mask. And as for me, it shows like this shit. That shows for me that how fucking real this shit is. You know, if we're to use the government as our point man, we use the media as our point man, and we're watching the media, them niggas ain't wearing masks when they doing the news. They're not. Trump ain't wearing no mask, so I'm like, it ain't that real. It ain't that real because these niggas are be sitting this down. Oh, well, they must be saying this. Fuck all that shit, nigga. Fuck all that shit. Them niggas ain't wearing no masks. People walking around every day wearing masks, and them niggas still alive. More people living from this shit than dying. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I do think it's a real disease, a real virus and shit, but I think the numbers are being drummed up for a purpose and stuff, you know, because the people are like cattle, man, and they need to be motivated. And this coronavirus is the sheepdog, is the dog that chases and barks at the fucking cows and shit, barks at the sheep to get them to go where they need to go. And the shepherd is the motherfucking government and the media. You know what I'm saying? And then also at the same time, the shepherd is you, and your thoughts, your fears are the dog, and your thoughts are the sheep. So it's like it's a system like that. It's compartmentalized, and these people know how to use that shit against us. Because actually, we're using it against ourselves, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? But like one thing I have seen is that families are hanging out. I think that's good. But I know there's gonna be families that, you know, they're on lockdown, and like the kids, their escape from their chaotic and dysfunctional family was school and friends and going outside and shit. And you got like, you know, women and you got husbands and wives that their escape was going to work and shit, you know, and whatever they were doing. Now they're all in the house together, and there could be extensive amounts of abuse going on in these households and stuff that make it difficult for the kids to be at home, that make it difficult for the family, the mom and the husband and wife to be at home, because there might be abuse on either side and shit, you know, we don't know. You know, or some kind of alcoholism, some kind of unseen fucking behavior that wasn't happening, that was going on behind, you know, during the normal life. And now the normal life has been like fucking pretty much ripped from them. Now they're stuck in the house and they have to witness all these behaviors that's been around for a long time. They ain't know it. So that's the plus and negative about, you know, the home lockdowns and shit. You know what I'm saying? But then now they're talking about reopening the country and shit. And I can already see, like, we don't even have to have the proof. We don't even have to have the proof that, you know, people are afraid enough certain amount of people are afraid enough. You know, I don't know how many people are afraid. I don't know if all the motherfuckers wearing masks are just wearing them because they're afraid or because they just want to fucking not be looked at like, oh, you're part of the problem and shit. So it becomes a conformity type behavior schema. You know what I'm saying? Where people are just following in line just for fear of being cast out and shit. You know what I'm saying? And so reopening the country, the economy and stuff. And that's the funny thing. Like, the only thing coronavirus killed was the economy. Simple, bro. I mean, that's kind of easy to see, nigga. That's easy to see. You know what I'm saying? The only thing coronavirus killed was motherfucking movement, nigga. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny. You know what I'm saying? And so when you got reopening the country, they're gonna talk about it, right? And then they're beginning to open what's already happened. I wish I'd have put this up earlier, a couple weeks ago and shit. I should have. But they're gonna open the country up, and they start opening a little bit up. You're gonna hear reports, rumors and shit from other countries where there's been a resurgence and shit, you know what I'm saying? And basically, man, when it's pushing the goalposts back, it's playing both sides against the middle and shit. It's coming with this bomb-ass excuse to reinstitute staying locked down and shit, you know what I'm saying? And what's gonna happen is, like, we ain't never gonna get back from this. This is a change. This is a society change. You know, one of the big things about it is creating a narrative and a history for the youth. See, the youth, they seeing this shit. They seeing everybody dressing up. They dressed up themselves. They don't even know what the fuck is going on. They don't know how things have changed over the past 15 years and shit. They just know one day it changed, and after a while, bro, they gonna be 10 years old, and the shit gonna be already instituted and shit. I didn't know about segregation and shit. I'm an 80s baby. When I was like going to school, you know, for the most part, it was already like there was other people in the school with me that were other nationalities and shit. I'm a military brat, you know what I'm saying? So like, how it was before, I had no knowledge of it. I had no experience of it. It didn't exist. And the only way I know about it is through fucking history, through the narrative that they taught me and shit, which I don't even know if that's true, but like, who am I to question this shit? You know what I'm saying? Now as I get older, I have the ability to research more than one source. And the bad thing is, like, when people finish school, when people finish school, they stop learning. They just start working. And that's just like fucking bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, you should be educating yourself outside of the education system to verify if the education system is even an education system. Truthfully. And we know, us the truthers and the flat earthers, we know it's just indoctrination camps. And I know that religion is indoctrination camp. I know that households and families is indoctrination camps and stuff. And the whole thing seems to be centered around keeping you from thinking for yourself. Keeping the religions are there from keeping you from realizing that there ain't no invisible. You are the God you've been looking for and shit. And I get why you're looking out in the hidden in plain sight. Best place to hide stuff right in front of your face, or right in front of your nose, or right behind it. You know what I'm saying? And I get it. And you know what? It's kind of fun when you can look at it from that perspective. But so rumors of resurgences and spikes in fucking coronavirus cases to shut this shit down. And what it is torture. This is how you torture people. You know, you see waterboarding when they get the motherfucker and they fucking and they put the towel over his head, they turn him upside down on his back, and they pour gallons of water on his face and shit, and they stop, and he catches his breath, and they pour it again before he can catch his breath and shit. And that's exactly what we see going on in the economy right now, in the world right now, is we're being waterboarded. And Trump even said it. He said he's gonna open the economy up and let the economy breathe. Trump been choking us the fuck on out. Niggas passing out on the verge, on the verge of fucking falling. Nigga, you sleep, nigga, he going to sleep. You know what I'm saying? And you know what? Let's look at it from this perspective. On being woke, and being asleep, right? If a motherfucker starts to wake up, you want to put that motherfucker back to sleep. Consider like maybe this whole movement, this whole thing is a culling of the people that are awake, you know, the ability of the people to wake, start to stir and shit, the birth pains, to put them back, to ease them and lull them back to sleep and shit, through fucking making niggas pass out by choking off their fucking air supply, you know. And it's funny because like I worked in a fucking processing plant, and you know, when the production and all that meat shit and everybody's buying everything up, you know, then all of a sudden like all the plants get sick, I mean, like, come on, bro. Like, who's bringing, like, come on, bro. They fucking coming from a localized fucking controlled regions and shit. And that would mean to say that there was more coronavirus spread in those localized, very small regions than there was in fucking bigger cities. Think about that shit. If everybody at a fucking Tyson processing plant gets sick, I worked at one in Iowa or in Illinois, in Johnson, Illinois. Bro, we all worked from, everybody that worked there was from the Quad Cities. That shit ain't fucking big at all, my nigga, at all. You know what I'm saying? And you got places like Montana, Idaho that are even more rural, even more smaller and shit, that their whole city works at the plant. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, for like everybody to get sick at one plant would say that there is more coronavirus spread in those small towns. You know what I'm saying? That means that more surface. I'm not talking about one person catching it, but I'm talking about one person having it and touching damn near everything, and everybody else touching everything they were touching, everybody getting sick. It makes sense for a small community, but still at the same time, the level versus a bigger city and shit, where there's more movement, there's more people, there's more transference, there's more money getting exchanged, there's more items getting exchanged, there's more microbials and people coughing and sneezing and all kind of shit getting exchanged and shit. It should be bigger. You know what I'm saying? Of course, the numbers are bigger, but like we're talking about a whole fucking plant getting shut down. 600 people out of, 1,500 people getting shut down and shit. But what's the outcome? Is that the meat? It's the meat. People eat meat. People can't buy meat. It's not on the shelves. People panic. People start to obey more because they're being choked off from it's waterboarding on the food sources, waterboarding on the job sources, waterboarding on the fucking movement sources, waterboarding on the fucking on just whatever. You know what I'm saying? You can see this torture mechanism being instituted in various different forms and shit. And you gotta think that when they had Guantanamo Bay open and they opened the Patriot Act and that terrorist shit, I'm pretty sure, like me as a scientist, you know what I'm saying? And I studied science in school. I didn't get the degree and shit, but fucking nigga, I looked for my car keys earlier and I was a scientist doing that shit. I was using scientific method to find my shit. It was in my pocket, right? But what was I say? Just the whole idea of, I'm about to say, damn, I almost lost my train of thought. Nigga, I done mental ninja myself again. Once again, nigga, hit myself in the jugular. With the fucking, the Vulcan West Side pinch, nigga. God, got that nigga, right? But, damn, where the fuck was I at? I wish y'all could I wish I was live, y'all could remind me and shit, but I'll get there one day. It's a building process. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so Guantanamo Bay and these fucking places they were housing terrorists, what do you think they were doing there? They were running experiments, man. They were fucking torturing these dudes and they was recording the data and shit. And what they were doing is they were not just record the data, but they were looking how they can reproduce the same results through other means. You know, and you can watch conformity experiments and shit on YouTube. Matter of fact, I'm gonna make a video. I'm gonna post one, the conformity of the elevator one. That shit funny as fuck. That shit hilarious. You know what I'm saying? But then at the same time, I don't know if y'all remember back in 2007, 2008. I was in prison 2007, so 2008, 2009, 2010. When I lived in Iowa around that time, I remember that. There was E. coli in the carrots, and then there was E. coli in some Bumsville, Idaho, and then there was E. coli in the peanuts in some fucking Bumsville, Wyoming, and then there was fucking E. coli in the spinach in fucking Bumsville, Montana, and there was E. coli in fucking whatever, man. But what I see in the milk in fucking Bumsville, fucking South Dakota and shit. And the thing is, when I looked at that shit, from a scientific perspective, what I saw was controlled experiments being carried out in very controlled environments that were isolated and they were very rural and shit. And we were being reported the data and shit. And so we're the variable. That's the control. And they're seeing how we react and stuff. And they're also seeing how a localized, E. coli spread can, how fast it can contaminate and how fast it can spread within a localized region and shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at that shit like it's science and stuff. And, I know that Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and shit, they track and Google track our search criteria. And even through I've been having conversations about shit before. And then go on my phone and it's an advertisement for that shit. I'm like, what the fuck? You know, so we're being monitored in a way to see what we like and what we want, so they can be marketed towards us and shit. Same way as like in the religious days and shit, or the Christian religion and shit, they would market fear and see how the people respond to that, and they would come up with more fears and more fears and more fears, and they like, man, hold up, I got an idea. Let's draw a picture of the ultimate fear, and like let's fucking teach everybody that this picture is real and shit. And that's where you get this devil motherfucker, where there's no devil in fucking Hebrew, in Judea. You know what I'm saying? There's only this the trial, which to be the is what the devil Satan is supposed to represent, is a challenge, is a trial, is like off or defense to offense, or offense to defense. You know what I'm saying? A polarity that's like if cause and effect. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, when I'm looking at what's going on in the news and shit, and it and one thing people think probably are fucking hella confused. They don't know what to do except wear a mask and put gloves on and wait. You know what I'm saying? And that's exactly kind of what's happening. If there's a music video by a group called Disturbed called The Vengeful One, and in that video it shows like the people on the news are like doing their news thing and shit, but like doing their weird ticks in their heads because they're like robots and shit. And the family like sitting on the couch watching it all go down, like a regular Mexican family, eating, laughing and stuff, sitting together, mom, dad, child, and daughter, son and daughter. And then the next thing you know, like there's like this fucking, the ticks keep happening more and more and shit. And then like there's like this nigga from space. He's like on a fucking Harley and shit. He looks like fucking, like he has like this mad face, like this crazy ass mad face, and a cloak and chains and shit. He's riding this shit, and he's the hand of God. He's coming to the fuck. He's like the destroyer and shit, the vengeful one. And he comes to Earth to fucking rid the people of this fucking poison of the media and shit, right? And so the nigga walk up into the fucking news place. He starts blowing their heads off, showing their robots and shit. And then all of a sudden these devils start popping up and shit. And they're like these bit in their suits, the business suits, like the fucking corporate elites and shit. And the people on the couch, the family, you can see them starting to change. You know, as this nigga's blowing all their fucking media sources away and shit. You know, they're starting to change. They're getting angry, and then they're becoming zombies and shit. And they become these zombies and shit. You know what I'm saying? Because they're angry that their narrative has been altered and shit. Because they've totally bought into the whole entire narrative. And then, you know, the vengeful one goes to a final duel with like the head corporate fucking media nigga and shit. And he ends up killing him and shit. But he takes a couple shots too and shit. But like, it's just going to show like how the media stranglehold is on the people. And once the people, their stranglehold gets taken away, they become violent, they become agitated, because it's a degree of Stockholm syndrome set in where they're like, they protect their oppressors. It's some serious shit. It's some very serious shit. And I think like, so I guess my message, you know what I'm saying, the COVID-19, it most likely is like a real disease and shit, but I do not believe at all that it's on the level they say it is. We're like, right now, you know, I got the invisible enemy swarming around me in the air and on the ground and shit, you know what I'm saying? Look at these, got these ants, nigga, ants ain't catching COVID-19. You know what's funny? Tiger King came out, right? And that was the #1 show in America and shit, right? And then all of a sudden, nigga, Tiger test positive for motherfucking COVID-19. I was like, nigga, y'all niggas is tight. Y'all niggas is really putting y'all working and shit, you know what I'm saying? 'Cause I see the narrative. You know, one thing for me, I'll share this with y'all, is a suggestion. You know, I try to give suggestions, so I don't speak in absolutes. And I do my best not to say you. You know, a good friend of mine who has like 30 years of sobriety told me in AA once when I spoke. I was a speaker at a meeting for 45 minutes, and he said there's a lot of yous in your pitch. And I didn't like what he said, but I understood exactly what he meant. He told me, he's like, I try to speak for myself. I'm like, I get it, I got it. And I try my best to do it. I ain't perfect, man. I'm still learning, but I like to give suggestions and shit. Something that you can choose. There I go, you. That one can choose to do for themselves. It doesn't matter. I'll say you sometimes. But a suggestion is, like, when you watch this narrative and shit, try not to be polarized in black and white, in, oh, it's a setup, oh, it's a plot, it's a plan, oh, it's evil and Masonic. Just try not to be like that. Try not to be like, oh, they're telling us the truth. Try to sit back there and not make a decision, just listen. That's what I do. I don't make a decision. I don't automatically see and be like, yep, it's the evil plan, yep, it's NASA, yep, it's the Satanists, yep, it's the yep, it's the Masons, yep, it's the Thelemites. I don't say none of that shit. I sit back and I listen. And then I weigh it out and see, like, with the information I've been just given, what does that mean to me? You know, and then what I do is I play it out like, all right, what if it was what would be the point of having this happen? good and bad, positive and negative, favorable and unfavorable. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I can like I use that shit when I'm at work, man. I watch people. I do my pitch, but the whole time I'm doing my pitch, I'm observing their reactions and shit. And that'll let me know what to say next or what to do next. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's like a healthy thing to be an observer. You know, they talk about in the Bible and shit, they talk about the watchers and shit, right? You know what I'm saying? And me and like my homeboy, bro, we like, nigga, we watchers and shit, cause I know I'm a watcher. You know what I'm saying? If you hear me say that shit and get polarized and become upset, that's you feel free. You know, what I'm talking about is I'm an observer, man. I view the world like the stars view the world. You know what I'm saying? You know why? I'll tell you a secret, nigga, because I come from the stars, nigga. They try to talk that Anunnaki shit, nigga. I ain't no fucking Anunnaki, nigga, but I come from the stars. I'm a star child, nigga. Every man and woman is a star. And that Milky Way, yeah, you know what that Milky Way is? That's where we come from. That's the nutsack. That's fucking, that's sperm, nigga. And we all come down here and shit, and we fucking manifest and experience life, nigga. And we go back to the source. We come back, and we go back again and shit. So, you know, to be totally middle pillared or to be totally depolarized from situations helps me, you know what I'm saying, especially as an alcoholic, especially as an addict and a fucking convict, you know what I'm saying, I'm a black man, not to become so bent up and so engaged in the narrative and shit, like, to be serious, not serious, but to be sincere. Where I'm objectively looking at things. I'm objectively seeing things. Like I look at this cactus plant, and like, oh, what can I notice first? Like this plant, oh man, there's fucking, look at those pointy things. Oh, don't touch it, it's gonna hurt you and shit. But that's a polarized polarity of fear and hurt and pain. But then I look at it and I see how it's designed, how like the whole plant itself seems to spiral out, and you have this thing shooting out the middle and shit, like it's growing like a tongue and shit, you know what I'm saying? And then I could be like, oh, it's an evil fucking it's gonna eat me and shit. But then I can look at it again like, man, look how beautiful life is. And I could be like, man, I wonder if I'm creating the same way and shit, like this thing that's happening around me and shit, I'm spiraling out the middle and shit, you know what I'm saying? Reaching for something, you know what I'm saying? Look at all the shit that's going on around the plant. And there's all these plants, you know, so that's why I try to share with the people I interact with, you know what I'm saying? Because, you know, I believe I got to a certain point in my life where it's like, it's no longer about me. It's about what can I learn and what can I share and shit. And am I adding to the stream of life or am I taking away? Do I owe anybody an apology today? You know what I'm saying? Pythagoras says, never go to sleep until you've gone over in your head 3 times. What did I do wrong? Who do I owe an apology to? And what can I done better? And I think that's very fucking valuable. I think that's virtuous and very venerable and honorable position to have in life and shit, because living in a dog-eat-dog world, it's best not to eat dog. You know what I'm saying? Because like when I judge somebody else, I judge myself. You know what I'm saying? When I'm persecuting somebody else, I persecute myself. When I'm trying to limit somebody else's rights, I limit myself. When I don't allow another man to have their own opinion, I limit my own opinion. Do you see what I'm talking about and shit? So like, for me to be able to do what I want, I'll let other people do what they want, and realize that I'm powerless over what they choose to do. And the only person I have control over is myself, to a degree, because I have to learn what that is. I have to learn what that self is, and what that self wants and needs and shit, and then mold and build off of that. So I kind of went off the Covid-19 thing, but yeah. I know if I say, oh, well, I don't think it's real as they say it is, but I think it is kind of real. I know you're like, oh, well, this nigga is a fucking agent, blah, blah, blah. Fuck you, nigga, shit. Straight up. You think that shit, nigga, that's you thinking that shit, not me. And ain't like you putting words in my mouth. You just fucking projecting. You projecting your thoughts on me. And I'll tell you about this, so look. I'll be like having these, you know, oh, man, if I say I'm a flat earther, they're going to get mad at me in a meeting, right? I'll be like, fuck it, I'm gonna say it anyway. And what happens is, what I'm doing is I'm casting my opinion on them and perceiving it as if it's their opinion on me, but it's just my opinion back on myself. So that's what projecting is, you know what I'm saying? So if I can, what can I project if that's the case? I can change the world around me if I project happiness. If I can notice the tree and the plant and shit, it's like, man, what am I doing? I'm noticing myself. Straight up, that's why I asked that question. I wonder if I go the same way. Like, fuck, I know I do. You know what I'm saying? So I'm about to end this one because my girl had called and I hit the I hit the button on her and shit so I can finish the video and shit. But it's gonna be a 2 little video. I'm gonna put them together and shit. But yeah, man, peace and love to everybody, man. And this the Mental Ninja, man. Welcome to the dojo. I'm out.